Hey folks, walk with me. If you struggle with self-hate, hatred of yourself, whether that's because of a particular thing that you do or you have done, or it's so many things that it is just sort of a generalized sense of self-hate, I have something you might want to consider trying, but you have to actually try it, meaning you have to focus on it, you have to do it repeatedly, and give it an opportunity to work. And maybe it won't, but this isn't a one and done kind of situation. One thing that you're going to have to keep in mind, which is probably pretty obvious, but I'll say it anyway, is that if you've been thinking this way for years or decades or what have you, it's going to take some time to undo. And it's going to be something that you might work with, even if it feels like it's undone to some degree. You're probably going to have to continue working with it. But the alternative is probably much worse than just having to try to reorganize in a different way. So the gist is, and then I'm going to give you like an actual exercise to do. The gist is you need to figure out a way for self-compassion. You need to find a way to see yourself as one who deserves understanding and love and compassion from yourself. And it is weird to sort of say from yourself, but the idea here is that you see yourself just as, again, someone who's deserving of those things, and that is your expression of being compassionate to yourself, is the acknowledgement and the understanding that you deserve compassion. Okay, so here is the sort of technique that I think is probably worth trying. So you'll need to find, a quiet spot. You can do it lying in bed before you go to bed. You could do it wherever. You're going to want to be able to close your eyes. So somewhere where it feels safe to be able to close your eyes. And you're going to have to imagine. You're going to have to imagine yourself as a 5-year-old child. And consider a 5-year-old child is very vulnerable. A 5-year-old child is wounded by words and actions very easily. And that those angry or nasty or hurtful words and actions that they receive are not their fault. You might not even be able to connect with that yet. This concept of it's not the 5-year-old's fault. But that's okay. This is still a place to start. Now imagining yourself as a 5-year-old child, and same idea. You were very vulnerable. You were hurt and wounded, and you suffered in various ways, from things that people said to you, ways that people treated you, things that were done to you. And those things weren't the 5-year-old you's fault. 5-year-old you is fill in the blank here. If I were to fill in the blank for myself, the first word I have is awesome. 5-year-old me was awesome. 5-year-old me was very imaginative. 5-year-old me was very excited about a lot of different things. Like just interested in wide ranges of things. Right? Those were all of the great things about 5-year-old me. 5-year-old me was also very lonely, was also very confused, and was very hurt, right? But we're establishing those things, those painful things, on the front end. We're establishing that 5-year-old anyone is easily wounded, right? And so yes, my wounds were those of loneliness, despair, distrust, confusion, neglect, those sorts of things. Okay, but here what we're trying to get to is aside from all of those things, the ways in which you were wounded and the suffering that you went through, what is at the foundation of 5-year-old you? Awesome, imaginative, like super interested in a lot of various things, whatever it is. You can think about your creativity, you can think about your athleticism, you can think about your energy, whatever it is that 5-year-old you has. And once you can come to terms with, yes, 5-year-old you suffered because 5-year-olds suffer, because they are vulnerable. But the core you, that the suffering doesn't have to wipe away. The core you as a 5-year-old were those other things. Awesome, imaginative, creative, so on and so forth, whatever your list is. And in your mind, as you're thinking of these things, go as your adult self, or as your older self, however old you are, and go to the 5-year-old you and offer it some compassion. Offer it a gentle smile. Let it know, him or her know, let them know that you'll be there. You're still with them, and you know that they suffer. And you also know that there are all these other great things, and name them. And smile to 5-year-old you with compassion. Now, this is the starting point. Where you ultimately want to get this to, and this is what will take some time, is once you feel that you can establish a sense of compassion and a sense of how, like, the fundamental core, tremendously wonderful things that 5-year-old you possess, whatever your list is, once you can come to terms with feeling strongly connected to that, feeling that is the root truth, and having compassion for the things that happened to that child that wounded it, once you have a grip on that, you can bring that to present day you. Because the journey you want to take here is, once you've established that about 5-year-old you, remember what you've established. You've established that at 5-year-old you's core, at their fundamental being, they were these lists of things. You are still that 5-year-old child. That 5-year-old child still lives in you. This doesn't say you have to be childish, though you can be, but is to say that whatever fundamental truths, whatever that child was at its core, is still your same core. It is still your fundamental truths. So if you think 5-year-old you was awesome and like impressively imaginative, you are still awesome. You are still impressively imaginative. Those things don't change just because you've gotten older. But they've probably been buried because it's hard to continue to believe those things when wounds of life pile on, and especially when early wounds, whatever wounded 5-year-old you, if those things weren't processed and brought to completion. But it doesn't mean that you're not those things anymore. They've just been buried beneath other things. But this is a way to contextualize all of that, put it together, bring it to present day. It's a multi-step process, and it will take time. And you have to make sure you don't move on until you sort of complete the first task, and that may take many, many sessions, or however you want to think of it. But establishing compassion and that list of things that are wonderful about 5-year-old you is the first key component, and then going from there. All right, folks, well, we're coming up on 10 minutes here, and it's about to get very loud because I'm getting close to a busier road. So I'm gonna pause for now, but I think that I got the full gist out. Hopefully it made some sense. I'd be interested to hear if anyone has any success with this. or what the experiences are that are out there. All right, folks. Well, thanks a bunch for watching this far. Whether you walked with me or not, I certainly appreciate it, and I will see you in the next video.